Greetings and welcome to the PodM8s Mental Health Roundtable. I am Travis Bowe, and I am joined by Phil Better and Perry Ritter. Welcome, fellas.
Thank you. My God, you're so professional.
Hey,
Sorry, I was taking care of part of my mental health and drinking water during some of that. So
well, good. No,
immediately
that's
professional on my end.
yeah, no, that's a good way to start this off. We got a good baseline now.
Yes.
Yeah, we might be
So,
joined by a few more voices later on, or not. So we'll just get this discussion, this roundtable of us just kind of sharing our mental health journey as of late, some of our struggles, some of our successes. Just kind of where we're at. I definitely want to stress up front. I think I'm speaking for the group. None of us are mental health professionals, so we are not offering mental health, we're not doctors here. We're not offering you uh
no.
we're just giving you some of our experiences, and if it helps you, then excellent. If not, sorry.
Sorry.
Eh,
No,
what are you
we're
gonna do?
just yeah, what are you going to do? We're just telling what worked for us, and you guys can take the advice and see if it works for you. If not, move on and find some advice that actually works for you to help with your mental health. All we're trying to do is share tools and resources that we used that have helped us and possibly can help you.
Yeah.
But again, we are not
Absolutely.
doctors or professionals. We are just podcasters. We're not
we're
anyone
not
special.
we're not doctors. We just play doctors on podcasts.
Yeah, that's right.
Any whole idiot white men with microphones and
Yeah, it's
loose
another white
opinions
guy
can
with a
start a
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah, I
Another
mean,
white
I've
guy with a podcast. That's not. I wish I had my soundboard. I would just play that. Oh my
mm,
god. All right, who wants to start this? Oh, look at this man sniffing some bourbon.
mm.
This is how, hey, look, this is the only way. That's not true. It's not the only way that I can get into my zone, but I am a bourbon podcaster. So to get into my podcasting like head, I have to have a Glencairn of bourbon to really feel at home. So I am going to be throughout the evening here, drinking on at least a couple things of bourbon, I would
So
say, but
so
it
maybe
does
you
help
should
me
maybe you
get in
should go
there.
first then, so that
Yeah.
Sure.
once you're a couple bourbons in, we're not.
I'll be podcasting from the floor eventually. No, that's not true. Sure. So, again, my name is Perry. I am from Lexington, Kentucky. I just a little bit of background on my podcasting journey too. I have been running my show. This is my bourbon podcast since October of 2017. We just released, as of recording, our 330th episode. We've had a thank you very much.
Congrats, yeah.
Thank you. We have been running basically consistently since October of that year, have a very wonderful dedicated listener base. We have been able to put on some various live events during that time. We have held a few fundraisers as well, including in November of 2019 for Movember as well for men's mental health, which I'll talk about
Nice.
here in a bit, which I think is also very near and dear to a lot of us podmates
Mhm.
as well. I think we'll talk about some of the encouragement that we might have received from the original podmates, James and Mason,
Yeah.
too,
Mhm.
in some capacity. But my struggle with mental health, I think it's kind of a cliche at this point to say that I feel like I have been dealing with mental health struggles since I really as long as I can remember for the majority of my life. Some of my earliest memories are anxious ones.
Mm.
When I was a young child, feeling very anxious to live up to parental standards or needs that they felt like I might need to to meet, which then trickled down into my own internalized standards that would follow me through high school into college, which eventually led to me being diagnosed at 19 with generalized anxiety and depression, after coming to my parents and saying, very bluntly, I have had thoughts recently of wanting to kill myself. And they were mostly understanding, I would say, for being the oldest of 3 children and not ever having had to deal outright with anybody coming to them with those kind of issues before. And I sought therapy. I am also still on the same anxiety and depression medicine, which I am a major advocate for. If you feel like you need it, take it, because if it's available to you and you think there's something that can help you get over that threshold of functionability, you should allow yourself that. There is no shame in a prescription helping you get through your day. The science is there for a reason. I mean, it's wild that we should have to, in this day and age, have discussions or disagreements around proven scientific discoveries on whether or not SSRIs and whether or not it works. Exactly.
Listen, for me,
you're putting it in a lot more simple terms than
I'm just going to simplify it here. Sorry, you're trying to sound scientific-y over there with your bourbon.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a simpleton that drinks beer. Let me just tell you, no.
Again, not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Yeah. My handwriting looks like I may as well be one.
We play one on podcasting, but we are real ones in life. Just to jump in, it's like with the discussion about whether or not medicine works. It's medicine, it helps you, right? Like you take medicine when you have a cold, or you take pills when you have a broken arm or something like that. Why are we looking at like, hey, my brain doesn't work the same way as everybody else's? It needs some work to boost up the serotonin or the dopamine or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It's all right. Like, it doesn't make me a different person. It makes me a better version of myself. That's how I look at it. It's my superhero pill. That's what I say.
Yeah. And I have been very fortunate as well throughout all of this to have an incredibly understanding partner. My wife was also my high school sweetheart. So this summer we'll have been together 14 years. And so she has seen the ups and downs and the struggles and everything. And so she can pretty immediately tell when I've been having a rougher day, and she gives me that space, or she notices when things are going extremely well, and she helps me to identify that, and we can, work through that better. And, we became parents in 2020. And, that was also a very stressful time to become a parent as well.
A little bit, just a little bit.
It was very odd. But it was also very rewarding too, because we figured out how to be parents in a very isolated space where, we understood that we were not necessarily on our own. We're in Lexington. Basically the entirety of our family is here as well. So, we haven't had to pay for a babysitter more than twice, maybe.
Same with my sister.
Thankfully. So yeah, it's incredibly nice, right? But the point being that, we're very much a team, and she knows what I deal with, and she keeps me very level-headed as well. So even though, the day-to-day struggle is not quite what it once was, I am still very much aware of the the overarching narrative of where my brain would be if I were not so well medicated, if I had not been therapized, as it might be described. And I find it incredibly important too to be an advocate for those who may not realize that what they're dealing with is what I was dealing with when I was 19, almost 12 years ago at this point. And through, raising money for Movember, even in a smaller capacity than others might be able to, I still felt like it was kind of my responsibility to help others out, because I knew that there was something to be done, especially with my platform, with the podcast, and being able to lift others up and support them, just as there is today and in several other ways as well. So that's where I am right now.
Right on.
Love
Yeah.
that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing, brother.
Of course, man. Of course.
Travis, would you like to go, or would you like me
Sure.
to go?
No, I'll go.
All right, cool.
Mine's my story, or is my journey with mental health. I've like in the last 5 years, I realized that I had depression, and sought treatment for that, and in different ways, and kind of came around to understanding that it helps to talk to people, it helps to journal. That made a huge impact, and things got to a pretty good place for me. And then, 2020 hit, and then we all hit, we all experienced, bad times.
Mhm.
But then we got through, like, as far as like in my circle of life, like we got through that. There were definitely some hard things that we had to go through with that, but came through it relatively well. But then this last year, what I want to talk about is kind of the period from December of 2022 up until pretty recently. My dad had, for most of 2022, he dealt with prostate cancer, and that's, as far as cancers go, that one is fairly treatable. He came through it, pretty well, with hormones and radiation. Like, he totally beat it, So by December 2022, his scans were good, and things were looking good. And by January of 23, so not quite a month later, he got this terrible headache. And so he went to the doctor, got it checked out, and by the weekend of his birthday, January 13th is his birthday. So on that weekend of his birthday, he was in the, hospital having brain surgery for it's called glioblastoma. It's brain cancer, and it's a really nasty version of brain cancer. It tends to burrow deep in the brain stem, where it can't really be they can't really get to it there. But he had a tumor on the side of his head, that they were able to remove. So, like I said, on the weekend of his birthday, he was in the hospital having brain surgery to have that, mass removed. And then, it's kind of like one of those diagnosis or prognosis is generally 9 months survival rate, and then there's like a 5% of the, like, if you get this cancer, there's 5% chance that you might live 5 years, or something like that. So, he dealt with the treatment, different radiation, some electro, like this almost a bandage that he had to wear on his head that supplied like a electric shock to his, to his brain, or something ridiculous, that was uncomfortable, but he dealt with it, he endured. And then cut to September, 9 months on the dot, almost, he goes back in for a scan, and the tumor has reformed. It's back. It's come back with a vengeance. It's worse this time. So, and right around this time, end of November, or I'm sorry, the end of September, I got fired from my job that I'd been at for 5 years. Really loved working there, got along great with the people. Just completely blindsided by getting fired. Um, and then like a week later, my dad is going in for his second brain surgery to remove this new tumor. So on one hand, it's like the timing couldn't have been better because I was able to then be there for his recovery.
Right.
And so we go like I, of course, this is the first job I'd ever lost, and I can't sleep. I'm worrying about my dad. It's just a lot going on in my life right then, and but I was able, like I said, to spend a lot of time with my dad and just kind of help him through the recovery because he got to go home after a little stay in the hospital. And for the most part, he could kind of do stuff on his own. For a couple weeks, it seemed like he's doing okay. And then, like an infection kind of set in, and he had to go back to the hospital. Because of the second surgery, like things just he was never the same after that. And so between October and like Thanksgiving, like the end of November, like we were just in and out of the hospital, ERs. He was having falls at home. He was, it just like started to go downhill. And at one point, the infection got nasty enough that they had to go in then for a third, surgery. They had to take out the chunk of skull that they had gone in the previous two times to remove that tumor. They took out that piece of skull to clean out this infection, and now he's got no little bit of skull there because they couldn't put it back in at this point. So he had to get fitted for a helmet, that he had to wear anytime he was up out of bed or out of a chair. He had to wear the safety helmet, and like I got this, this is not what he wanted. He did not want to end his life this way. This feeling of diminished capacity and losing his abilities and his freedom and all of this. But I know he appreciated me being with him, and I'm getting off track, but it's hard to put
That's
some of this
fine, brother.
into words.
I think you're perfectly on track, honestly.
Yeah,
But
there is no track. We're making it
yeah,
as we
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So we got to have Thanksgiving with him. That went fairly well, and it's like a little bit after that he starts going downhill a little bit more. So we we get him into a rehab facility. They think, well, if we can work with him, get his brain to realize how to operate now, how to function, and he never really got better with therapy, with any of that stuff. And progressively we started noticing, the left side of his body is just shutting down. He's losing his grip in his left hand. He's his when he walks, he's shuffling that left foot. He can't really pick it up and move. All this decline physically is starting to become very apparent. But we get to a point where he gets released from the rehab place. It was really important to my mom that he come home for Christmas. We knew it was going to be his last Christmas, and so she really wanted to have him home. So
And how long
the
was he in the rehab for?
this one was 2 weeks maybe. And
Gotcha.
it's such a blur.
Sure.
October
Oh yeah, of
to
course.
Christmas,
Of course.
it's such a blur. It's so strange, to think back now and think
I understand.
like,
Yeah.
he was home for maybe like 3 weeks out of that couple month stretch. But the rest of the time he was in and out of, like I said, hospitals and rehab places and nursing homes. And we got to the point where, we needed to take him to a nursing home because we couldn't physically, give him the care that he needed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there were several nights, around the Christmas time, when I was kind of living there and at home with him, and just kind of we couldn't have him in bed because he might fall. So we got
Sure.
him into a reclining chair that, was comfortable enough he could sleep in. And I'm half sleeping, next to him because if he's got to get up and because of the medicine he's on, he's got to pee every 45 minutes. And, he was at a point where he couldn't remember, like, okay, get up, put my helmet on,
That was
you
my
know,
next question, was how cognizant was he of his surroundings?
it
Or even just
really,
internally, how cognizant
yeah.
was he of himself?
It's like he kind of understood everything that was going on, but could not remember, like, hey, I can't just go to the bathroom when I need to. I need to slow
Sure.
down. I need to have the walker with me, So it was such a struggle, like keeping up with him in some of those moments, like chasing after him, like, hey, you put on your helmet or let me help you down the hallway or you're gonna fall.
Right.
And there were falls and there were times, at the nursing home, the first couple nights, like I went and stayed with him and I woke up after trying not to sleep. Like I was on watch, and I finally
Yeah.
fell asleep. And when I wake up, he's in the bathroom. I'm like, God damn it. Like I've been trying to stay awake the whole night in case he needed help. And the one time my body finally said, no,
You're
you're gonna
screwed.
pass out for 5 minutes. It's the one time
Yeah.
he got up and got himself to the bathroom, and luckily he was fine. But then a couple nights later, it's like he fell and hurt himself.
Sure.
It's like,
Sure.
so it was just so many struggles. But where am I at? We got to a point, like I said, we got Christmas. We were able to spend Christmas with him, and then um that's when we realized a little after that physically he needs more than we can necessarily do at home. It was, I was running ragged. My mom and sister, they would fill in so I could go home and get some sleep, but they both worked. It was just, we were all stretched so thin at that point. So we decided, okay, we need to take him to this nursing home where they can give him a little bit more care. And then I was still able to go and spend the days with him, and got to spend a lot of time just next to my dad and got to be there a lot. I'll never regret the time that I got with him. I hate that it was time in that condition,
Mhm.
um, but then, we started to notice like he's not eating as much, he's not really, he's not going to get better. And so there were several times where we just thought, okay, this is going to be it. This is his last night. Maybe
Sure.
he's going to go in the middle of the night. And then he made, he lingered, as terrible as that is to say, like for days, got to a point though that we realized, okay, it's time for hospice care to get involved. He's at that point, and we decided let's bring him home. Let's bring him home. We'll start hospice care, and I think that was like a Thursday or a Friday, and this was we made it to January. We made it to the weekend of his birthday. Brought him home. His birthday would have been Saturday the 13th, I believe, this year, and he passed away on the 14th. So he made it to his
Oh my
66th
gosh.
birthday and a day.
He's a whiskey.
He's a whiskey. He made it to yeah, that's right.
He's a European whiskey.
He's a
Yeah,
European whiskey.
yeah.
I apologize making
No, it's
no,
perfect.
no,
I
no,
thought
yeah.
it is. I thought it as soon as I said "and a day." For the listeners, in the green room, we were discussing what makes a whiskey. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, he made it a year with this disease and a day. And so with that, it becomes grief. Anytime, I don't know if you guys have lost people close to you, but
Oh,
the
yeah.
grief that comes with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
The relief that comes with it. In my case, it's like after having this sort of a job of spending with my dad, not a job, but like having something to do, something to fill my time with. And that's when the getting fired came back. I started to relive the firing in my
Sure.
while I would
Mhm.
sleep, and just reliving that like awful experience of just the rug being pulled out from under me. So I'm reliving that. I can't sleep. I can't, I'm thinking about my dad. I can't sleep, and then at some point, like kind of, um, I had a realization, and it's something I thought about while we were in and out of the nursing homes and rehabs, that I think I overheard my mom saying to my wife, like, he's really good with Jack, with my dad, like physically just moving him around spaces and navigating, you know, moving him around and like feeding him and just taking care of him. I was aware that others were looking at how I was with him and saying that I was how good I was with him. And that led me to decide to seek out a career as being a CNA, a certified nurse's assistant, someone who would go
Congratulations.
into,
Let's
That's
go.
amazing.
yeah. And so like, I kind of took some time between, January, February, that just kind of, I didn't look, I'll say for the unemployment office, I did what was required of me every week. I looked for work,
You took
but
it in. You didn't force yourself hard to look for work, but you did look for work, and if work came, you would have taken it. But you
sure.
took that time to
Yeah.
better invest in the skills that you had
Yeah.
while meeting the obligations that
Right.
were placed on you to
Exactly.
be part of the unemployment
That's
office.
right.
We can say it. We can say it. The bare minimum.
There we go. I didn't
Skating
want to
They're
put
by.
not
see
listening.
Yeah.
see. That's what I'm corporate, so
Mm.
I speak corporatese.
And I am the government. So
uh,
and you know what's funny?
Yeah.
I work as a neighbor to unemployment insurance as well.
Okay.
So we're all good, homie.
Yeah, right on. So once I kind of came to, we'll say, in March, I I started looking, into how do I become a CNA? What does it take? What do I need to do? Found, I just happened to be too late to kind of start one of the local uh sort of tech schools that offered CNA training, but I started to find out like these nursing homes will hire you and then pay you to do on the job training to become a CNA, because they need the bot they
bodies.
need the staff. It's definitely, there's definitely demand for it. It's hard work, of course. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
of
burnout.
course.
Mhm.
But as of the day before my 41st birthday in April, I started my orientation, and as of now, I've been taking, I'm part of a nursing home facility, and I'm taking courses and like on the job training. And I, when I'm done with this, I like right now I'm considered a nurse aide in training, an NAIT. When I've completed with this course, I will be a nurse's aide. And then once I pass my state exam, I'll be as a certified nurse's assistant, a CNA. So,
That's
you know,
awesome.
I
Very, very good.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm not a, there's a reason for everything, or I'm not one of those types of people. But it's definitely, I'm glad that I lost my job when I did, because I was able to spend all that time with my dad, and with all that time, I found something that I can do that I think will make a difference. And moving forward, I'm excited about that. I struggle all the time now. It's like hitting my first birthday, like my first birthday after my dad has died. Like I'm
Right.
starting to,
The
I'm in
firsts are
that, the
happening.
firsts are
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, we'll
Those
come.
those firsts after a significant milestone are so weird.
Yeah.
And I don't ascribe to um a lot of the religious upbringing
Mm,
that I had. Excuse me. But the one thing that my childhood pastor would say a lot, that still is kind of like in the back of my mind, was this concept of the new normal,
mm,
right? And it's the idea of, you know, once those major milestones happen and you've grown accustomed to the life after those major milestones, what does that new normal look like? You know, whether it's
Yeah.
without somebody or something, or the new addition of somebody or something. You know, what it, you know, when people say, I don't remember life before
Yeah.
X, Y, or Z, you know, that's your new normal,
Yeah.
right? And it's whatever grieving process that leads you to your new normal. But this also like gives me it brings up something I want to ask you guys
Hmm.
about too, which I think you kind of touched on too, Travis. Those spoonerisms of like everything happens for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
I personally hate those phrases.
Yeah.
I think they are so placating,
Yeah.
and they are
They're a cop out.
and they're such a good way for people to avoid talking about what is really happening
Yeah.
on any
Or take
micro or
responsibility.
macro scale. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, there's so much that is happening, you know, on a macro scale, to in our on globally
Mhm.
Mhm.
right now, right? That people are so willing to hand wave away
Yeah.
and say, well, it's happening for a reason. You look at what's, you know, happening, what the parallels between what is happening now and what happened in the 60s, and then um you know, how that is affecting people's mental health, you know, going forward. And everybody's like, oh, it's just it's happening for a particular reason. But you know, that just seems to be the way that people are coping with it so that they can move through. And this is a very hyper focused point that I'm making, but that's just because that's where like my
Yeah.
mental health is
Mhm.
right now, of course. And I think it's a lot of people's um hyper focuses right now too. But like with your father passing too, I mean, did did anybody come up to you and say everything happens for a reason? And if so, like how did you
Jesus, I would have
personally
punched that
respond to it?
motherfucker out.
Oh,
Excuse my language.
I would have lost my mind. I would
It,
have lost my mind.
yeah.
It would have
It
made me so angry.
no, that did happen at the we had a
Well, great. Great.
he, we had him cremated. That was his wishes, like, you know, right after he passed. And then we took a few weeks and then had like a remembrance, a memorial
Mhm.
kind of get together with friends and family. He would have hated that. Absolutely would hate the idea
We have very
of
similar fathers.
being the center of attention, you
Uh,
know. Absolutely. Well, we tried to make it, you know, a little
Sure.
not fun isn't the right word. Um, but regardless, like, yeah, there was
Light.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a friend of his that did come up to me afterwards, and I think had heard about my plans to look into becoming a CNA. And yeah, he said something to the effect of everything happens for a reason, and he put it more
It's what he would have wanted.
well, he put more of a religious spin on it,
Ugh.
you know, which
Shut up.
again, that's not, you know, if you're into that, fine.
Yeah.
That's not where I'm coming from. But as far as the everything happens for a reason thing, I wish I could remember what movie I'm thinking of, but there was a discussion in a movie where they're talking about, you know, whoever the character was says, I hate that saying everything happens for a reason. And then the person they're talking to says everything happens, period. Like, and ever since I saw that, I love that. I love the
I
idea
know
that
what
just
movie it is too, and
everything
I can't think.
happens. And I've tried looking up everything happens
Give me a
and
sec.
you know,
Jamie, can we look that up, please?
Oh, let's get Jamie on it. Actually,
Yeah.
perplexingly, AI. That's what I'm using. Quote.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna use the old Google machine, but
No, this gives you answers. Quote
I was gonna give it a
from
Googs.
movie. Let's see who gets it first.
I gave up because you trusted a higher power.
Let's
I
see.
wanted to say it was like pay it forward.
So
But that felt too
I wouldn't
like
have seen that.
The first
So
result is a blog post by Kate Bauer discussing suffering and Easter, but it does not appear to contain the quote.
yeah, I kept getting her. She's written a book about everything happens, and she's got a podcast about it or whatever. So that's all the results I got too. Was that Kate person? But but I do like that saying everything happens, and I think to spin off of that, it's like, and that's what life is, and it's how we decide to deal with that, with what happens, and we just got to move
Is it
forward. I think.
Keanu?
Well,
It
I'm
can't
never
be
going to search
Keanu.
that phrase up again. Holy shit. I searched everything happens for a reason
Yeah.
scene, and it came up with the scene from Saltburn, the bathtub scene. I don't know if you guys have seen Saltburn.
No. Oh, no.
Oh, I'm going to leave it at that then.
Okay.
People who have seen Saltburn and are listening,
There's
you know
no
the scene.
there's no way it's Ghostbusters.
No.
No. It has, for some reason, I'm thinking Ricky Gervais probably said it.
I'm picturing more of like a Garden State, like a Zach Braff, just like more of a coming of age kind of like someone
you know
in their 30s trying to figure life out, and that sort of vibe.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's gonna pop to us, but we're gonna continue on.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Listeners, if you know what movie,
please message us.
Yes.
Save us from our torment. I know someone's yelling. Like
each
someone's
individual
listening to
too.
this is yelling.
Yeah.
It's this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Travis.
No, I mean, I'm at the end of my journey. I mean, luckily for me, I think I've come to a place where I'm looking forward to what comes next. And yeah, it was a shitty last year on top of a shittier, it was a couple years of just like
Piling on shit.
Yeah. So some rough times, but I think moving forward, I'm doing okay. So
Fucking love it.
yeah. How about you, Phil?
I'll jump in here. There's like two parts to my story of mental health. My brother, so my journey with mental health starts with my brother. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia when he was 2021. And he's 30. Wait, I'm 38. He's 37, I believe now. Yeah, so it's been about 17 years. We've been living with paranoid schizophrenia in our family, and the evolution of where he was to where he is today is completely different. He actually, what was funny is just earlier this year, my mom works at a pharmacy, which is the Shoppers Drug Mart, which is just a kind of like convenient not a 7-Eleven. What's your pharmacies?
CVS, Walgreens.
I guess like that, our version of that, where it has also, why are you selling groceries next to pharmacy stuff? So
sure.
What it is. And so my brother would go in on a Friday where they would put the tickets saying what's on sale, and he would help her out. And like, if you knew my brother 17 years ago when you first saw him, you're like, that is not possible. But like, so seeing the growth that he has, and going on a journey of understanding what he was dealing with, his mental illness and his mental health, opened my eyes to the world of mental health. And I've always been now more of an advocate. I have extended family that have people with other types of disabilities, autistic and that. And so that world of anything with the brain has always been something that's been close to me because of, direct impact of my brother and then the externals. But in 2019, a huge relationship event happened. A relationship of 6 years ended, and I then just burrowed myself into work, went super hard, and then had a huge argument on my birthday of that year with my family. I just blew up. Like, my nephew, who was just born, was in the room, and it was my birthday. We're celebrating my birthday. I blow up yelling, just like pure venom and fury coming out of me from bottling up everything for the last like 30 odd years.
Yeah.
just bubbles over, and I'm just furious. And my dad says, "That's it. You're going to see the doctor." Pretty much the next day, I saw the doctor. He put me on some medication that wasn't working. January 31st, I told him, "No, I can't do this. Like, my mental health is done. Like, if I continue, I'm going to do something drastic." He gave me the paper for burnout for 2 months. Went into work, took the burnout 2 months. The following week, I was in therapy, weekly therapy sessions. Also very, very self-medicated. With we'll go with medicinal marijuana at the time. We'll go with that. Like, I was just like, I
Jealous.
was.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So yeah, so I was on, I can't remember the name of the medication that I was on. But I was also medicating medicinally with marijuana, seeing therapy, was doing yoga. Like, I was like, I need,
Yeah.
like, no work. So I was like, okay, what can I do to 10x my recovery from this illness? Because I was always someone that needed to move. I couldn't be like sitting at home doing nothing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like this, right? Seeing my nephew, who pretty much, then I got told I was going to be his godfather as well. So I'm like, okay, I'm the godfather. This is my nephew. So I'm going all in. Like, once, like, I literally was like therapy, then yoga, and then on the Thursday go see my family and my nephew and just be with this. Like, he was only like a year old nearly at the time. And then COVID hit and lockdown happened. And so goodbye to yoga, goodbye to weekly visits with the family. Now I'm stuck in my apartment all by myself. What the fuck am I going to do? Luckily, I still had therapy because she went virtual, which was like, okay, great, you know. And then it was like, okay, let's go to YouTube and go down rabbit holes in YouTube, because I enjoyed not having a schedule. This is like, okay, this is the freedom I like. There's no shackles, everything's off, right?
Yeah.
And so I started learning about digital entrepreneurship, and I was like, okay, but with digital entrepreneurship, it's really weird because you go super high level, how to make money, and then you're like, wait, no, there's stuff I need to learn. So it's like, okay, self-improvement, which helps with mental health. And as I'm going down, deep diving into like learning more, reading more books on self-development, learning more books about like being a business owner, like the 4-hour work week, how to win friends, influence people, think and grow rich. Like, you start going down all these weird rabbit holes and reading all these weird books that are business oriented, but they're also self-help books at the same time, because they're teaching you what these people go through struggles, and you're like, oh shit, I had something similar, and you try and use it and you're like, oh my god, this works. So it's 10xing my mental health abilities. And then I went back to work in office because I didn't have the equipment because I had burnt out, right? So just before they all went virtual, I was like, I don't have anything. So I had to go into the office until we could get the record stuff. Then I finally get able to go back down. And this is like lockdown. We're still in lockdown. So like, it's desert, and it's really weird because there's like 4 or 5 people in the office because they have to be there because it's tech related. So it's like really weird that you're there. And then I get my stuff, go home, and I start working, and I end up starting a new position. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Going into this position. And at the same time, I'm learning so much about entrepreneurship, and I'm trying my hand at entrepreneurship, right? Well, it's not working because I don't know anything, and I'm not healing properly, and I'm trying to do everything at the same time. And then I decide, well, I know how to do podcasts, right? Podcasts are my jam. I've been doing the Phil Better show for at that time, I don't know how many years. I want to say about 5 to 6 years. So I got the premise down on how to podcast, right? Business side of it, no idea, but I know how to podcast. So I was like, you know what? Let's connect with entrepreneurs, because at the same time, I've been seeing this uprise of everybody wanting to get on podcasts, and this who has podcasts, and more emails coming in than normal to be a guest on the Phil Better show. And I'm like, you do realize this is a movie podcast, right? It's not for entrepreneurs. And it's still weird. I still get it. I'm like, why are you pitching me about an entrepreneur? Wrong podcast. You should check out this podcast instead. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna jump in, and I'm gonna make a podcast about entrepreneurs, right? Because I'm gonna talk to them. I'm gonna ask them the questions, right? And funny enough, people will tell you anything on a podcast when you interview them,
Sure.
especially when it's about their niche or whatever they're doing, and they're trying to use you to grow their influence, and you're like, you're
Yeah.
gonna teach me, right? You
Yeah.
charge $5,000, but you'll come on my podcast for free, sucker.
Mhm.
I just got $5,000 worth of coaching, but so that's what I did. I just started asking people. Like I would work 9 to 5 in the day in this new position, hating my life because I went from fraud to helping the branches and employees, but you start learning more about this business and you're like, wait, this is so inefficient.
Mhm.
Because you're talking to these entrepreneurs that are like using these techniques that are like life changing and they're moving at rapid space, and you're like, but this, and you're like, they're loss of money, and you're like, your mind starts shifting when you start going into the entrepreneurial space, because you start seeing where irregularities are in corporations and businesses, and you're like, well, we can make more money this way, because that's who you're talking to, people who are making money. And so I started butted heads a lot with the management and my trainer as I was learning, because I'm asking questions and they're like, why are you asking questions? And so 9 to 5 Monday to Friday I was doing the day job, but from 5:30 to 10 I was podcasting, just lining up interviews pretty much for the first 3 months of the podcast, because one of the first things you learn as a podcaster is batch recording is the key to life.
Yeah.
Get as much content as you can so that you can relax later on. And I launched in December, still going hard. And then March started butting heads with my boss. And I was like furious. And at this time stuff was starting to open up again. And one of my old jobs contacted me and like, hey, do you want to be a busboy again? And I'm like, you have to remember, like working 3 nights a week, you walk out with like 3 bills in
Right.
every night. Like that is equivalent, apart from selling your body and your muscle and your youth, it's good money, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Yeah. So I started working there and butting heads with my boss. And I was like, fine, like, you know what? One message happened. It literally was about podcasting. And I was like, I'm done. Because the reason I joined that department was because they had a podcast. And I was like, oh, cool, I can help this. And then I can foray that into corporate podcasting and make oodles of money.
Yeah.
Right. Because then I can charge what I'm worth. And the person wrote podcast with the space, right? Pod, space, cast. And I'm like, oh, this is a grammatical error. I'll just jump in here and just like, hey, buddy, just FYI. Unbeknownst to me, this guy is a manager because I'm not directly under him, right? Because it's multiple departments.
Right.
So I have no idea who this Tom, Dick, or Harry is. I tell him, hey, FYI, it's pod space. It's podcast, not pod space. Then my direct manager goes, hey, Tom, we'll call him Tom. Thanks for letting us know about the podcast, and thanks, Grammar Police.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm like, whoa.
All right.
You're my direct manager. Like, if this is my like a buddy of mine, cool. But you're the direct manager. Why are you punching down?
Yeah.
So I respond in the group chat, because it's all, if she's gonna hit me, I'm gonna hit her back in the front place. I go, just as I'm passionate about our department and making sure things are followed correctly, podcasting is a passion of mine. I like to make sure things are followed correctly there. She private messages me saying, call me.
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
So I call her.
Power trip.
Yeah, big time. Boomer power trip. It's a boomer power trip. It is. They're all boomers. All management were boomers, right? So I hit the call button and she's like, no, call my cell. But I'm always recorded. My shit is always recorded, right? So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I call her and she starts reading me the riot act. This guy's a manager. That's not how you do it. And my level of fury is rising, right? Because I'm like, who the fuck are you to talk to me? Again, I apologize for the swearing, and if we have to edit it out, we will. And I apologize again. No, cool.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay, my level of rage is rising. I'm like, who are you to be talking to me this? And like, I'm doing very, very monotone, like, yes, I understand type. There's no quiver in my voice. I'm like, fury is bubbling. And she's like, I don't think you understand. And I'm like, I'm very upset right now, and I do not want to say anything that will cost me my job. So I do understand, and I will do better in the future.
Right.
And she goes, well, okay, I have to go. Bye. Click. And I'm like, oh, like that Hulk, like picture Hulk Hogan, every muscle, like, he's just like, oh, but like everything's just tense and there's just pure fury building. I feel like I'm about to go Super Saiyan with rage or nuclear. I'm just shooting out pop culture because I want every millennial and Zen.
Everybody's got to understand.
Yeah.
Just like how like just the fury that's bottling up right now. And I just shut down everything. I just shut down the computer. I'm in my house, shut down the computer, leave the room I'm in, lock the door literally because I'm like, no, there's just there's just like an evil entity in there. Go sit down on my couch, roll another giant medicinal marijuana thing to help me cope. My phone's right beside me. I turn on my TV. I put on some action movie because I just needed to like just violence. Just give me violence for this rage to leave.
Vibe out, yeah.
And I just smoke, and my phone just starts lighting up with like call after call. From my supervisor, then from my manager, and then from my manager's manager, like the head of the department. I'm looking at it, and I'm like just looking at the time for it to be past like 6 o'clock because that's when all of them leave. They leave at 5. I just want to make sure. Then I listen to the voicemail saying, hey, Phil, we just want to make sure you're okay. This and that, give me a call, right? That's pretty much the level. And so I just call back the business number of my direct report because she'll get a text message saying that you have a voicemail. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just had a very bad encounter with so-and-so, and I'm not in the, I just needed to leave. Thank you, goodbye, click. Maybe 20 minutes later, get a call. I'm like, I answered. I'm not working. I'm not answering. I see who it is. She leaves me a voicemail saying, okay, thank you very much for letting us know. We'll talk tomorrow. Cool. This happened on a Tuesday. Wednesday, we're in. She's like, hey, we're going to talk about it on Friday. We'll have a meeting. I'm like, bless up, right? That's great. Friday comes. I'm working, waiting for the ping. You have a meeting scheduled. You know, if you ever worked in corporate, you have those pings, and you're like, you're like, you don't even get a choice. It's like you've been scheduled.
You're summoned.
You've been summoned, right?
Time.
So I wait, and this is all virtual on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's even like more fun. And then I say, okay, Phil, we're ready. Let's jump into the call. You know, all happy. Jump in the call. It's their 2 virtual heads and mine. And my direct report goes, okay, so Phil, we want to know what happened. And so I'm like, I point by point, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, Todd said this. I said this. Janet said this. I replied. Janet said this. We had a talk. I left. Boom, 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 boom. No deviation from story. You know, like it's pretty much all. So you can check the logs. They're there, right? Like it's a written story. I just added my flavor to it on the phone call, right? Then she goes, okay, yeah. So we want to talk about training and how you were like really disruptive with questions.
Oh, come on.
What?
I'm like, wait, what? Hold.
So this is now an HR problem.
I'm like, oh, wait a moment.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm like, oh, so we're that means nothing. Okay. And so she goes, so we don't know if it's a good fit. And I'm like, you know what?
Wow.
You're right. Because like I was still on a contract from the other department. It hadn't been a full year. So if necessary, I could go back. And I've been with the bank 10 years. So like they can't fire me without being like, here are 15,000 reasons why we're letting you go. Because banks in Canada are their CYA cover their asses really, really well. I don't know about the States, but in Canada, you don't want to, it's really hard to get fired unless you literally go, here's all the information leaked
right
about our clients. But I'm not under an NDA anymore, so I can leak all that information. But I won't. But so I'm like, you know what? You're right. I think it's a bad fit. I quit and I just closed the laptop. I'm like, fuck this shit. And I had to, like the minute she had dismissed, like it's not as satisfying as slamming a phone down, and only millennials and older will understand this. Sorry, Gen Zs. But just slamming or like just like folding your phone shut like that, it just relieves so much energy, right? Same with slamming a laptop down, especially when it's not yours. And I just was
this was assigned to me.
Yeah, this was assigned to me, so I don't fucking care, right?
Yeah.
I just sat and like relief just like flowed.
Wow.
Right? I was like, oh my God. Like, wow. And then I was like, then panic because I'm like, oh shit, I now lost a significant amount of my income.
Yeah.
Because yes, I was working at the pub, but like pub money isn't bank money.
Right.
Sure.
A big
What
difference.
what year is this?
This
point?
is 2021.
Okay.
This is about mid 2021, so we're nearly entering summer of 2021. No, let's say fall of 2021. Sorry, it was fall. I started working more full time at the pub.
Mm.
Pretty much working days, so at night I can do the podcasting, and then they switched me to nights, and so I was like, oh, fuck. Now I'm getting home at like 5 a.m. and it's like, oh, I you sleep most of the day, and then you don't have time for podcasting, and you're like trying to juggle that. So that was wearing on me, and I had just stopped probably after I quit the RBC. I stopped doing weekly therapy, or I stopped doing therapy. We had gone weekly, and then we had gone into monthly therapy at that point. And then by the fall, I had stopped therapy because I'm like, I'm good. Like everything's going good. My podcasting is taking off. My business is okay because I had a client or two. I was picking up clients here or there, freelancing, podcasting. 2022 rolls through. By June, I nearly had another burnout from working at the pub because I was just furious with like everything. Like just another fury popped up. So I started going back to therapy monthly, actually, not weekly. Couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped therapy since then because it's been saved my life. But also spending time with my nephew has helped me. Like he's the only reason. Like he's the light in my life. Like without him, like I don't think I would still be here, because after we were able to after lockdown was down and we could see him, I would see him as often as I could. I'm the fun uncle. Like like, come play, come drive car. I'm like, cool, I'm down on the floor just driving a car, pushing a car, not really giving a hoot and holler. Now it's like playing some video games or playing soccer, because he's like, he's going to be 6 years old, which is like incredible kind of to think of. Like he's growing into a person now. He has his own thing, and he just got a puppy, and it's like, oh my god, he plays soccer, so the puppy is now,
dude, on the flip side of that, my nephew is almost 6 days old.
Oh my god, congratulations.
And this is my first niece or nephew.
He's the first of everything, no first grandchild, first everything, so he's spoiled rotten. And
I'm sure, man.
He's also
awesome.
He's also a rainbow baby as well.
What's that?
A rainbow baby, I believe it's a rainbow baby.
It's a first baby after a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
okay, good. I did get the term right. Thank God.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up too, because my wife and I had so we have our first daughter, who I said was born in 2020, and we have our second on the way. She'll be born in September of this year.
Nice.
Congrats.
We had a lot of trouble having a pregnancy that would stick last year, and we had a very surprise pregnancy in January, but we had 2 miscarriages last year, and my brother and his wife, that's who had my nephew last week, they also had miscarriages last year too, so they're a lot more common than people would think, along with the mental health conversation. But rainbow babies are also they're very common.
Yeah, and he's
crazy.
like, it's crazy because he's the most loving kid in the world.
It's good.
Like he's like just so joyful, so energetic, and helpful. He's amazing. I love him. From a very young age, I always told him, like, you're my best friend, I'm your best friend. Like, this is law. Like, this is because the moment, like,
you got a dog to compete with now.
Oh, no, I fixed this. Smarter than this. I thought outside the box here. I'm like, I'm your best friend. I'm your best friend. You're my best friend, right? And he's your best man friend, because a dog's a man's friend, right? Like, right. So I'm like, when you're a man, he's your best friend. Like, he's your best man friend, but I'm your best friend. Thinking outside the box in the future, right? But like the first time I held him, and I don't know what it is to be a parent. I have no sires yet. I haven't sired any children. But the minute I held him,
I love that phrasing.
Yeah.
I haven't sired any youth yet.
I'm in horse country, so it rings even more true for me. That's fantastic.
But like I held him, and I kind of felt like Barney from How I Met Your Mother when he held his daughter for the first time.
Yes.
Like I'm
Beautiful, most amazing scene. Okay, second most amazing scene in the show.
like I'm just holding him. I'm like, you have everything you like.
Yep.
I'm done. Like
Yep.
I don't know if like even if I have kids, like you are like he's number one, and then my partner's
buddy.
like right behind him. Like I know when I have kids,
buddy.
like my kids will obviously be on at least on par of him. But he's my like everything. Like I'll do anything for this kid.
Right
And
on.
like I just when he smiles, he's happy. Like I always like I treat him how I wanted to be treated.
Yeah.
That's something I learned from my therapy. Like I'm always down on his level. I'm never looking down on him. He's like, "Come on, Uncle Phil." I'm like, "All right, cool." You know, like it's
Uncle Phil. Nice.
Uncle
It's
Phil.
so weird, right? I'm also the Funkle. Like we're trying to get him to say Funkle for Fun Uncle, but so far I'm the he's calling me Uncle.
I think lean into the Uncle Phil. Just
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
no, always.
Please.
I'm big Uncle Phil fan. But like when I found out my sister was like pregnant, I put a picture of Uncle Phil as a profile picture.
Nice.
And like literally the caption was, "If you get it, you get it."
Yeah.
You know? And it was like so funny. People like, what do you mean? Congrats.
Yeah.
Like some people who figured it
Yeah,
out.
right.
But like when I held him, like it was done. And like he is the light of my world. Like I know like when I'm bad, like I'm like I need something, I literally will text my sister and I'd be like, I need pictures of him. And she'll just like either send me pictures that she has taken, or just go up to him and start taking pictures, or send a video of like him to me. And like just everything just goes good.
Like J. Jonah Jameson. I want pictures of
I want
Spider-Man of the baby.
Give me the baby.
I would like to see the baby.
Yes. Now that you say it, it sounds super creepy.
No. At least it's like a family relative. It's not
yeah.
Not too creepy out. You know, it's just slightly creepy. Creep level of 2 instead of 10, you know? But yeah, it's just he is, without him, I don't think I would be healed as I am, because I'm like, I need to be the best version of who I am for him, to keep him inspired. And like I even changed my podcast, Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur podcast, the one I launched, specifically because I wanted it to be of a resource to him. And so like I asked now a last question: what advice do you want to give back to your 10-year-old self, of every guest on there? Because like these people are like successful business owners, right? Like who best, like what advice do you want to give back to your 10-year-old self? And having AI now makes it like life so much easier, because it just transcribes it, and then I'm going to put it into a book and give it to him as a gift when he turns 10, because now he has like 500, 600, who knows how many pieces of advice from entrepreneurs that he can take in his life. And whenever he's questioning something, it's like he has a Bible in essence of advice that can like help him whenever he's dealing with something, to make him true to himself, you know? And never have to worry, and hopefully not deal with the level of mental health problems that we had to grow up, because we're all relatively in the millennial age bracket, right? Gen X millennial.
I think I'm the youngest millennial out of the three of us. I was born in 93.
Yeah, you are at the end of the millennial sphere.
Yeah, my brother is my brother was 96, and so he is like officially a zillennial.
Yeah, I think, doesn't it start in 97? The Gen Z.
I think that it's so murky, but I've heard like 96 is even like roughly like a cutoff where you can be Gen Z or millennial.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not as clear as the Gen Xers to millennial.
Yeah.
So 1980, that's when we're cutting them off. Fuck them off. Anybody after that is a millennial. We don't care. That's what the Gen Xers do. But yeah, I'm a 85, so yeah, I'm a elder millennial.
So your story to me, Phil, brings up kind of an interesting question of like, why fight for your mental health, right? And I think that a lot of people have, different reasons as to why they would want to better themselves through recognizing their struggles with mental health. For me, I think in the long run, the goalpost has kind of shifted, right? It eventually became about wanting to be the parent that I didn't have. Not that I didn't have parents, of course, growing up, but I
The
could
version of
have
the parents that
had
you wanted
the parents
or
that I wanted. Exactly.
or
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And a good example of this is I had to teach myself how to ride a bike,
Mm.
right? That is a very formative part of any kid's upbringing. You bond with your
Parent.
mentor, who is your guardian, when you're growing up, because even though they show you these steps to how they're going to be there, there is that letting go portion of it too. Excuse me, of I'm always going to be there, but I trust you to take care of yourself too. And so there was a lot of learning for me of how do I do this on my own? Not just when I was getting into my teenage years and becoming an adult. It just was like, how do I do things just in general, right? And so my mental health became a lot about like, I need to do this for who I can be as a person, right? And eventually it was, how can I be a better partner? How can I be a
Mm.
better guide and role model for my kid and my kids, moving forward too. So when for the both of you all, that those struggles, when did you all feel like there was kind of a clear cut path? And I know that there was realizing that, your nephew was maybe part of like that journey that you were on. But how did that become apparent to you all that there was something that was more to you
Mm.
in your journey than just like it's all about me, because that can be part of it too,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think it's okay in your mental health journey as well to be selfish. Like I think it's perfectly fine to be
Yeah.
selfish with like I gotta be here for me too, man. Like
I
I th-
there's a better part of me that is out
yeah.
there that I can work on.
I think for like when my dad got sick with the brain cancer, after that first surgery when he was healing, you know, I found myself like I had down days at work, and then I asked myself, I kind of came up with a mantra almost, not quite a what would my dad do, but it basically was that. And the answer I would tell myself to that question of what my dad would do in this situation is just get to work, just keep moving forward, just get to work. And so I, you know, tried to keep that mantra going, you know, at work, at everything I needed to get done, because I gave myself a little time to grieve, but at the same time was like, you just got to keep moving forward.
Sure.
That's literally what he would do. He would just keep. He was one of the most hardworking people, you know, I've ever known, and so I think he would just keep working, and that's what helped get through his illness for me. And like afterwards, it's kind of become, I don't have him to lean on with questions of, hey, why I can't get this tiller to work? How do I get this little engine on this tiller to work? Well, I can't ask him that anymore. So it's gonna be kind of a figure it out. Just, you know, learn to move forward. I think that's where I'm at. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that answers the question, but like I think I'm just at a point where it's like, well, I need to learn how to be without him,
I think it does.
you know.
Yeah.
I've never been a selfish person. Um,
I said it's okay to be selfish, and you said, well, that's not just me. Or that's just not me.
Well, no,
Not
no,
for
no.
me.
It's
Yeah.
the reason being like now I realize why I'm not a selfish person and I need to be a selfish person. And I'm slowly
Sure.
learning how
Right.
to put up those barriers so that I can become selfish, quote unquote, in the good way, not in the like fuck everybody else type way that some selfish people are. Because I've always been a people pleaser, I've always been a helper.
I am too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think slowly, like putting the barriers up, saying no, that's not. I'm not going to accept that. Like that's not how you treat me. Like I have two words tattooed on my body in Irish: respect and honor. And those are two things that I hold very covetedly in my life. Like you need to, respect was something I was brought up with. You need to respect people, right? Everybody deserves a level of respect, from the janitor to the
Yes.
CEO, right?
Mhm.
And honoring your word, like your word is your honor, you're like that's all we have, like there's nothing else in this world other than your honor, right? And you have to have good honor as a person, right? Because that's your
Yeah.
protection. So learning how to get people, because I wasn't respecting myself, I was letting people walk all over me. So learning to put up those barriers to start respecting myself, but also helping out. Like so for my family that's really hard there, but it's like I need to put up that respect so I can show my nephew. Like I need to
Yeah.
be selfish to show my nephew that hey, certain things you need to be able to put down your barrier. You know, like
Mm.
as a godfather, that's my job, right? I'm the godfather. I need to teach my nephew these things that his parents aren't able to teach them because they're too close to the fire. You know, they can't see
Mm-hmm.
the hidden dangers.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, bro, I need to teach you like this is not okay. This is okay. This is how you do go about this, and this is how you do this. You know, like there's certain things that you need to teach that he should learn that he probably won't learn from his parents. And that's why I'm kind of getting that book together, because it's teaching me as well, you know, like teaching me how to do the things that I wish I had as a mentor when I was his age, you know, like no
Yeah.
fault to my dad. I wish my dad was more present, but because he was like, I have to take care of my family, and that means putting food on the table, which brings me away from the family, you know. And my mom was dealing with 3 kids, like she only could divide so much of her time. So between the baby, which was my brother, and my older sister, which she had a better bond with, right? And no hurt to, like she did her best with me, but I was always kind of like, okay, I'm gonna go do things myself
Mm-hmm.
and be kind of independent and figure out how to do things myself. And I still have that in to this day. Like I can't trust to lean on anybody. I have to do it myself,
Yeah.
because if I try and trust, it's either they're not going to do it or they're gonna it's not the way I want it. So it's better just to do it myself. And so
Sure.
that's like it's made me hard to be able to connect with people, which I found like with my nephew, I'm like, okay, I can build this trust because with him and me, like there's undeniable love. Like it's period. This is pure unconditional love. There's nothing marring it. There's no conditions. Like he loves me 100% just because I get down on the floor and play games with him, or I play soccer with him. Like regardless if he doesn't see me, I know I'm going to get a hug when I see him. Like there's
Yeah.
no, it's pure love.
Sure.
It's not tainted by anything. And it's like, okay, I have to protect this pure love. So that means I have to learn to put up the protection around me, because I'm the weakest link. He's not. I'm the weakest link in this chain, and I need to be forge myself into betterness. So that means learning how to be selfish, learning how to put up those boundaries. And it's scary as all fuck. To
Sure.
be
I think it's funny though that you say like it's almost like a resistance to like connect with other people though, because you say like
I didn't know
the
this was
two
going to be
most im-
therapy.
Just let it in.
well,
Let's
strap
go.
in.
Yeah, I'm ready.
No, but like the two most important words to you are respect and honor, but like those are the two ways that I feel like you personally are com like connecting with other people, right? And like that is how you are offering up your best self to other people, you know? So like to me, like my mantra is it actually comes from, and you can go ahead and roll your eyes if you want to, or listeners, viewers, whatever. Um, comes from a Dave Matthews Band song, which is there we go. Be kind always, no matter.
Mm.
It was a song that he wrote to his kids, which was to offer up advice. And, you know, you can basically look at the world from one point of view, but if you don't actually experience it, then you're not going to truly understand it. And as I've and you know, the other mantra that I try to live by is, and I think this is the advice that I would give to my 10-year-old self too. And, you know, I remember my 10-year-old self, I wasn't doing so hot
Hmm.
back then. And this comes from a Spider-Man comic book.
Hmm.
If you go to bed and you realize you didn't do so great that day, you say, well, I will do everything in my power to wake up the next day and do better. And
I
you
like
hope
that.
that it just improves
Yeah.
day after day after day after day. And so those two mantras, I think, work really, really well in tandem with each other. If you weren't kind to people today, you'll be kinder to people the
Yeah.
next day.
Mhm.
And it should inherently just build upon itself, right? And, you know, again, like I know I keep kind of coming back to this like implication that there is like an agnosticism to who I am as a person anymore. And I think that like even if I don't, you know, go to church on a regular basis, there is still like um there's still a Christian habit to
Mhm.
who I am in the way that I treat people,
Mm.
right? And to me, like that's way more important than like trying to bring people to baptism or
Sure.
to Jesus
Yeah.
or anything. You know what I mean?
Just be a good person.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. Like there are plenty of good people who are not, who don't call themselves Christians,
Yeah.
and there are plenty of terrible people who do. You know, and the same is true
With
when
any.
it's flipped. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's there is no black and white in the world anymore. And not to say that there ever was in the first place, but to me, it's the focus should be, what am I doing to try to better the very narrow microcosm of what I am able to experience, and the focus that I have 24 hours to 24 hours, 7 days to 365 days, year to year. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And by you know, to bring it back to what you were saying, Phil, honoring other people, I think truly that is like how you do connect with them. Like that is not putting up walls. Like that is a connection with people that some don't receive,
Mhm.
or some can't receive in even their most intimate circles, because they just don't know how to accept it, or they don't know how to embrace honesty with the people that say I love you,
Yeah.
or that give them hugs, or you know, like, because the most the best thing that we can say to people sometimes is just, I accept you for who you are.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, that's beyond politics, beyond religion, beyond socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, there's so many reasons why we should just forget who we are when we go to bed at night, and just honor the fact that we are human. You know, but there's one of the things that I don't talk about on a on a widespread um on a widespread kind of platform, is that my dad was adopted,
Mm.
right? My dad grew up in upstate New York, to fairly affluent parents, and up until 4 or 5 years ago, actually maybe closer to like 3, we really didn't know what his background was.
Mm.
Um, and so he did the whole 23andMe thing. And the primary result that he got back was Moroccan.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so you're telling me that my primary ancestry is Middle Eastern?
Mm.
So all of this empathy that I have felt throughout the past 20 years of my life, right? With all, you know, the and I'm going to be very specific because I think this is the only way that I can particularly describe it for people. America first, or anti-immigration, or whatever. I don't know if it is epigenetic for me or whatever, but there is still something that is very true to me, that there is a Middle Eastern gene in my body. And so to me, I want to reach out and be the most true and honest and loving to as many people as I can, because I don't know what their background is. I don't know what they're going through, man. Be kind always, no matter. If I wasn't kind today, I will be kinder tomorrow. I don't know what their mental health struggles were today. So if I didn't do good about it today, I'll be better about it tomorrow. Like, it all builds to me. And that, even if it is like from a somewhat selfish aspect, I think that's okay, because there's still a positive outreach to me that comes about eventually. It sounds kind of weird, I think, when you put it into practice, but I do think that there are positive outcomes, there are positive outreaches from it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I like that how Phil, the way Phil wraps up a podcast is asking, what would you tell your, 10-year-old self? I love that we're kind of wrapping up this one. And yeah, I love the aspect of do better, do better tomorrow. I think if I were to what I would tell my 10-year-old self is participate, in
Yeah.
all aspects, family, school, life, events later on, like with friends, don't sit on the outside and just sit back and watch, actually get in there. Like I wish I could just engage with people more in a real setting easier, I have a very hard time just walking up to somebody and saying, "Hi, how are you?" and starting a conversation, because that's one of when I was in therapy, that was a big part of it, was that social anxiety, because I don't know how to talk to people. And then, which is weird, because in the last 10 years of my life now, I can talk to you if I've got a microphone in my face. If we're doing this across, the internet, I can talk. Sure. I cannot walk up to my friends, at in a social setting and know what to say. I struggle with just having normal human conversations because I don't know what to say, So I've struggled with that a lot. Um, so maybe it was because we were like, as a family growing up, we didn't participate a lot with family events. When we went to family gatherings, we didn't really engage with our cousins and, other like family members. So I don't really know a lot of my extended family. In school, I didn't really, put in all the effort. It's like filling out the unemployment. Like, I did the minimum. I got by,
I did what was asked of me.
Exactly. I did what was asked of me. I didn't really go much further than that, So yeah, that's one of those, call it a regret, if you want. But yeah, I wish I would have participated more in life. I mean, I'm 41. I've still got time to,
You got at least 60 years. You got at least 60 years.
Yeah. So I've got some time to course correct maybe, but that would be what I would tell myself is just participate more, engage. So
Can I ask you guys something so we can end it on a
I don't get to say something about my 10-year-old self. We're gonna just give Phil
no,
you can't.
No,
I
wanted to.
I'm done.
I wanted to end it on something kind of fun. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm fucking kidding, man. So one thing to Travis, a book I'll suggest is one that constantly comes up in my podcast. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's actually, Warren Buffett says there's one specific part of that book. You don't need to read the whole book. There's one specific part. I can't come to it, but that book is one that I would have to say suggest audio or the old-fashioned read it with your eyes. But yeah, when How to Win Friends and Influence People is probably the book that's helped me the best in actually engaging and talking with people, and also asking people, who do you want to meet? Whenever you go to a networking event, it's who do you want to meet? And then you just go find that person and you introduce them, and then you look like a god. But anyways, I have two things I want to kind of say on Perry's topic of his mantras. I have something similar. It's I rather be known as a kind person than a good person, because a kind person will break unjust laws to help people. And for me, that's always, I rather be known as kind. I don't care if I'm a good, you see me as good or bad, but I want to be kind to help people, because that's all there is in life. We only have people, right? And plus, when hunger goes, people are the only thing you can eat. So I want to have a lot of people around me when the zombies come. So I had to make a joke, but yeah,
Hell yeah.
it's always be kind. Like, it's because, like, you only have your fellow people. And what I would go back and tell my 10-year-old self is something that I wish someone would tell me is, no one's watching. No one is fucking watching. So if you make a mistake, no one fucking cares.
Right.
No one remembers what you did because it doesn't impact them.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've learned, like doing public speaking. Like I when I was doing stage when I was in high school, I didn't care because I was on stage and everybody was watching, but like I couldn't translate that into the real world, and realize like no one's watching, because most people are thinking, holy shit, how are they doing that? Like I would be so terrified. Like within 5 seconds, they're already turned it back and being selfish and thinking about themselves, and how they would be doing it. So they don't even think about you in that moment. But it's like, don't worry, no one's fucking watching. Just do it. Just fucking do it. No one cares.
Yep.
And now Perry can leave us on a happier note than just fucking do it.
I wanted to ask, because at the end of my show, we always do a recommendation segment. It's called Tips and Bits. It's literally just anything that we have been watching, reading, listening to.
I kind of do a similar thing. So that's cool.
Yeah. So tips and bits for this PodM8s mental health roundtable. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
And then Travis can end it because he started it. Did Travis start or did Perry start?
Perry did.
Perry? Okay, Perry, you're going to end it. So I'll go first, then Travis, and then Perry.
Okay.
Since I went last. Tip is just be 1% better each day. It's just, that's all you need to be. It's just better than you were by 1%. You were by yesterday. Like whatever yesterday happened was yesterday. You have a new day to spend. Just be 1% better. Just trying to improve your life will improve the lives around you. Just like I said, just do it. You're going to improve generational life here. You're not changing your life, you're changing your ancestors down the stream line. If you just make yourself 1% better, that's my only tip. Just do 1%.
Nice. I'm gonna recommend, if we're just talking about like broad, spectrum, recommend something.
Anything.
I've in the last couple, I don't know, last 5 years, maybe not even that long, last 3 years, my wife and I have gotten into gardening a lot. And I've gotten into growing hot peppers and making my own hot sauce, and
nice.
Doing something like that as a fun hobby, to ferment your own hot sauce. And it's just, it doesn't take a lot. We have a large garden now, but it doesn't require a lot of space. All it takes is dirt and water and a little time, and then you can grow some peppers, and then you can turn those peppers into hot sauce and give them to people, and it's rewarding. So that would be my recommendation. Not specifically making hot sauce because I don't need the competition, but find something like that, just get your hands dirty,
I will recommend 2 things. The first one is
Such a selfish person.
Overachiever.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You're the scotch of this podcast.
Campusbailfunds.com. That's all I'm going to say. The other one is the new Gary Clark Jr. album. I am a music guy. I've been playing music for most of my life. Gary Clark Jr. is one of my favorite guitar players and modern musicians, blues artists, just period. He is incredible. His most recent album, JPEG Raw, is maybe his best effort yet. I have listened to it over and over and over again since it came out about a month ago at this point. The last track, Habits, every single time I listen to it, it's got an extended outro. It makes me cry every single time. Not even joking. It's an incredible album. And also, Travis, thank you for organizing this too.
Oh,
there you
Yes,
go,
and
man.
yes, thank you, Travis.
hey, yeah, it just felt like it was time to do this again. And I think it's also important to say that if anyone who's listening wants to do a mental health podcast, do it. You know, it
Always.
doesn't have to be your long running podcast, you know, but if anyone wants to get their story out, grab a couple podmates, you know, get on the mics and just talk for an hour. I mean, we've been going an hour and 40, you know, and yeah, I think hopefully people can take something from this or learn that they can share their experiences. So I'd like this to be a, you know, doesn't have to be a weekly kind of thing, but
Once a month.
hopefully, yeah, others will join and carry the ball and just do this every so often. So yeah, no, thank you both for being here and sharing, just being open to share. I think it's really important. So yeah, so thank
Of
you.
course. Thank you,
Thank you.
Travis.
And
But
thank you for listening. And
yeah.
as always, remember to invest in yourself.
You son of a
And until next time, I'm Perry.
till next time, stay safe out there, outlaws. If we're all just gonna do our own outros,
We all did our own outros.
Yeah.
I
We
love
did it.
I love it. That's perfect.
always be plugging.